Hello, this is Dave Lee Travis, welcoming you to another edition of the Top 10 Auto Show. This week the subject is coupes, the category of car designed to appeal on the counts of style and fun. But of course, even though looks sell, the coupes have to be practical and a decent investment as well. All these factors have been taken into account by our panel of experts who are the editors of the UK's top motoring magazines. So let's start at number 10. And this is the car which isn't on the current price list as it's now been deleted. The Vauxhall Tigra was not a bad little coupe for its time. Remember, this came out before Ford's Puma and Renault's Megane and was pretty much the only affordable coupe around.
Hello children, I'd like to play a little word game with you. I'd like you to think of as many words as you can to describe this car. Cute. Stylish. Small. Cuddly. And girly. Now that's the end of the word game, but what does it reveal? Well, that the Vauxhall Tigra very definitely gets the thumbs up. Inside, well, you get the standard Vauxhall look, which can be a bit mundane on some cars, but not on the Tigra. There are seats in the back, but if you're over 5'10" tall, you won't want to spend too long sat back there. The boot's not bad for size either, plus the rear seats fold to give you that extra luggage space, but if you're thinking you're going to get Aunt Sally's Chippendale chest in there, forget it.
It hasn't the road manners of, say, the Puma, and it really is cramped, especially in the rear seats, but the Tigra has made many owners happy.
Once you get out on the road, this is actually quite a pleasant car to drive. The steering is sharper and more responsive than on the Corsa, and even this 1.4 auto still feels fairly quick. Equipment levels are high too. We've already mentioned that it's got electric windows and electric mirrors. Plus this has got power assisted steering, it's got a driver's airbag, it's got an electric sunroof, and you get alloy wheels on the 1.6 model.
The car gives the speed without the high insurance. It's curvaceous without being ostentatious. Although it's old, it doesn't look outdated and stands out from the crowd in a big way. Although the suspension makes the drive a little bumpy, it's what you expect for a small sports coupe. Refinement is pretty poor and the engine's a little buzzy, but it's got plenty of pep to get you around. At the end of the day, the Vauxhall Tigra can be loads of fun, and they really get you noticed. The late departed Tigra at number 10. At number 9, it's the Renault Megane Coupe. Like the other Megane variants, this is a very capable car, pretty cheap to buy and to run, and you get good kit for money. The ride and handling is well controlled, but even with the 2-litre version, performance isn't great, and the driving experience is pretty lackluster. Plus, the styling isn't really that different. The idea of a coupe is to create jaw-dropping curves and sleekness over and above the original saloon or hatchback version. Here, Renault look like they haven't really tried, although probably it's because they were restricted in terms of what was already there. However, for the price, you do get a very adequate car, but in this highly competitive world, adequate is no longer good enough, so we find the Renault Megane Coupe at only number 9 in our top 10. At number 8 in our chart is the coupe version of the Honda Accord. Like the Renault, Honda haven't exactly pushed the boat out. The styling isn't that sporty and the interior isn't really that sexy either. However, to American eyes, it would be a success, as the coupe version was designed for the US market and it sells like hotcakes. Because of the stateside connection, at least you get plenty of gadgets and gizmos as standard even on the base model. But the overall look isn't one that you'd expect of the upmarket stylish coupe. On the plus side though, it's extremely comfortable inside, with plenty of space. The car's very brisk performer, taking you to 60 in about 8.5 seconds. Driving involvement is pretty good, however the American influence on this car is seen in that you can only get an automatic gearbox. How on earth can you really enjoy a drive without a good old stick shift? Still, overall this is a comfortable coupe with plenty of kit for the money, and has good safety and reliability in its favour as well. The Honda Accord Coupe, a sensible buy at number 8 in our chart. At number 7, in the top 10 coupes, we reveal the Citroen Xsara. Now here's the car which was designed to create a range of models in the small family sector, similar to the Renault Megane idea.
Xsara feels much more like a three-door hatchback than it does an out-and-out sporting coupe. Nevertheless, it's very quick on the road, feels very nimble, and it responds to steering input immediately. The interior feels very similar to the Xsara saloon. Seats are quite supportive and comfortable, though I have to say the choice of fabric design isn't my cup of tea.
The car's pretty refined when you're tootling along, which is fine, and becomes nice and throaty when you put the pedal down. Because of the badge, we really can't see residuals being high on this car, so try to get a good discount when you buy so you won't be too disappointed in a couple of years when you find its value may have plummeted. If you can live with a fairly muted styling and the huge headlights at the front which seem to dominate, this is a really good coupe. The Citroen Xsara Coupe at number 7 in our top 10. At number 6 in the top 10, it's the Hyundai Coupe. Hyundais in the past have always been plagued by indifferent styling and pretty poor build quality. Over the last few years, things have improved dramatically in both quarters, and in one particular car, the Coupe. The company knew if they were to be taken seriously by the world automotive market, they needed something that looked like it had a sporty heritage and pep under the bonnet for people to sit up and take notice.
Once you're on the move, this car does actually handle quite nicely. It feels safe even in the sharpest of bends with very little body roll. The braking is very responsive, and that's thanks to brake discs on all 4 wheels. But what does it for me is the smooth gearbox, reminding me ever so slightly of the Audi TT. As in most coupes, with the exception of a few, there isn't much legroom for passengers sitting in the back. However, once in the driver's seat, the revamped interior gives a very spacious feel. The seats are fully adjustable, giving a very comfortable driving position. However, I do find the steering wheel a tad on the large side. Now, Hyundai have done away with the black plastic and put silver in its place, which really isn't that bad. The dials are clearly visible and in keeping with the car's sporty image. Hyundai say they've only made a few mechanical alterations to improve drivability and refinement. Extra soundproofing has been added to improve low-speed engine noise, but when pushed hard or even driving fast, the engine becomes coarse-sounding and it can be off-putting, especially on a long drive.
There are 2 engines in the Hyundai Coupe range, a 1.6 and a 2 litre. And even the 1.6 litre is extremely able and willing to have fun with. We're not talking enormous acceleration here, but the car is fairly light and delivers adequate power on the road. Also on the plus list of the Hyundai Coupe is an amazing warranty. Good reliability and even used prices have been keeping quite high. However, now the all-new Coupe is on the market with many more improvements, things may not hold as high much longer. The Hyundai Coupe at number 6 in our top 10. At number 5, slipping down from last year's number 1 position, is the Peugeot 406 Coupe. As saloons and estates, the 406 has been extremely capable, but who would have thought this astonishing shape would come from this family range of cars? Thanks have to go to Pininfarina, the Italian styling house, who took the basic 406 body and created a sleeker, sportier form that pleases the eye yet still keeps the solid characteristics of the car that's underneath it.
But I'd like to introduce an annoying pseudo-philosophical argument here. The 406 Coupe is a beautiful car. It's also a mainstream car, and beauty is seldom mainstream. Some of the cars acknowledged to be the most beautiful in the world, well, part of their appeal is due to their rarity and exclusivity. Now, the 406 Coupe might be the kind of car that sends the fleet manager disappearing to the toilet with a picture of it, but it can hardly claim to be any sort of piece of automotive exotica. That's what's led it to become almost invisible on the road. When I first saw it at a motor show, I was stunned that Peugeot could produce such a beautiful car. Now, not far down the road, it's become just another company car, precisely because Peugeot make it. I'm sure there's a conclusion to be drawn from that. Damned if I know what it is, though.
In red, it even has a look of a Ferrari about it from certain angles, yet it has astonishing practicality. For goodness sake, there's even a diesel version. A diesel version of a coupe? And why not? On the road, the driving position is comfortable and the ergonomics are nothing to complain about, but it's a shame that the dash isn't a little more special after the riot of curves outside.
The dash is more or less taken straight from the standard 406, the only real difference being these chrome bezels surrounding the dials, which is hardly the stuff of fantasy. Then underneath we have a strata of this odd, shiny, scratchy plastic, and then right underneath, on the centre console, we have a reappearance of the dreaded elephant hide plastic that's seen adorning the interior of the 206, and I don't like it at all. Mind you, it is a genuine four-seater. There's room in the back of the car for two proper grown-ups, and there's a really neat trick for getting them in and out. Forward, and back, and forward, and back. I'm sure I could break it eventually, but it would probably take me ages. So, is it just a pretty face? Is all of this just makeup, or is its beauty more than skin deep? Has the 406 Coupe got what it takes to cut the mustard when you hit the road? In short, yes, it has. This is the 3-litre V6 engine version, an engine that actually makes an appearance in a great many cars. There's the Atlantic Venturi, a French supercar, the Renault Espace and Laguna, to name but a few, and then of course the 406 Saloon and Coupe. Though I have to say, for whatever reason, it seems to make the least interesting noise in this car of all the other cars that it's fitted to. That said, it is a stonker of an engine. There's bags of torque, and once you get it fully on song, it does start to make a reasonably attractive snarl as you progress at speed.
This car is getting on a little bit now, and Peugeot have not announced plans to update the coupe version, but there's plenty of life in the old dog yet, and the Peugeot 406 Coupe will continue to stun and wow onlookers and please its owners for many more years to come. The Peugeot 406 Coupe at number 5 in our chart. Stay tuned, because after the break we'll be running down the top 4 of top 10 coupes as voted for by our Men and Motors panel of UK motoring magazine editors. Hello, this is Dave Lee Travis welcoming you back to our top 10 of coupes on sale during the last year. At number 4, it's our first of 2 German contenders in our top 10, the Mercedes CLK Coupe. Now, here's the car which hasn't really been designed for hot-headed young Turks who want to thrash about a bit of metal at the weekend.
Now, as far as the interior is concerned, certainly at first glance it is a quality motor car. That shows all over. But this black wooden trim here, which costs £1,000 extra, by the way, is not only prone to reflections, but in certain places they haven't even made it fit properly. The glove box over here has got to be the smallest one you've ever seen in your life. There's the service book and the instruction manual, and you won't get anything else in there, possibly not even a pair of gloves. This centre console lifts up for dual storage capacity, but the lid rocks and rolls and wobbles around like it's a 15-year-old Range Rover that's had a hard life down on the farm, and quite frankly that really isn't good enough. These seats certainly don't look anything special, very nice brown leather, but for £3,000 as an optional extra, you'd think they could make them look a little more special, and many people who've been a passenger in this car say these seats are just far too firm. Me personally, I like that, but it's not to everybody's taste. And overall, the feel of it is not as good as it should be in a car of this class.
There's plenty of space inside for 4, forget the 5th person, and it's quite an extensive list of standard kit, including air conditioning or climate control, which seems to be less of a luxury option on just about all cars these days. The CLK will keep its price very well. This car is in tremendous demand still, as a long-distance comfortable cruiser that will turn heads at 50 yards. There are 2 compressor engines in the range if you enjoy a good vocal sound under the bonnet, but if you're seeking refinement, we would go for the 320. The CLK Coupe is an expensive car, but it will reward you for years and will keep its price well. The Mercedes CLK Coupe at number 4 in our chart. We're up to the top 3 now, and at number 3 is the car destined for the death sentence. And what has the poor old Puma done to Ford? It's been a very successful car, and the Ford Puma has pleased thousands and thousands of customers. Who knows what's in the heads of the mandarins at the Ford Motor Company? But for now, let's enjoy this small sporty coupe which is based on the chassis and floor pan of the best-selling Ford Fiesta, put together by the genius of Welshman Richard Parry Jones.
But hang on just a minute, because there's more to this car than a couple of seconds here and there. This is a great car because of its handling. Now, the Puma was always a superb car to drive, but the revisions to the racing Puma have made it a handling dream. Tuned suspension and revisions to the springs mean that it's got absolutely bags of grip. It goes around this track as if it's on rails, even on a wet, miserable, damp day like this.
As a performer, the Puma isn't much to write home about. However, the experience is extremely thrilling. In the same way that a kart gives you the impression of high speed, somehow the Puma also puts a huge grin on your face when you're behind the wheel, even though its acceleration doesn't come anywhere near many of its rivals. Well, 2 more cars to go, and can you guess what our number 1 will be? Here at number 2, the car with a very aggressive statement to make, it's the Toyota Celica. Now, if you can't work out what saloon or hatchback this was developed from, don't worry, because it wasn't. This was designed as a coupe from the ground up, so there are no compromises here, one would have thought. Let's take a closer look. It looks fantastic with a stance that's purposeful and an interior which favours the performance driver. Yes, you get the drilled aluminium pedals and the sporting seats, and yes, you'll have enormous fun on the road. You don't see many Toyota Celicas on the road, and this keeps the desirability high, and it looks at the moment to be quite a good long-term investment.
Coupes are one of the most stylish types of automotive fashion. Every girl should have one in her wardrobe. They offer a great blend of performance and good looks that guarantee them a place on the catwalk. But some models, like Toyota's Celica, are looking less chic designer label and more high street fashion in need of an update. Enter a swanky Californian design studio, some inspiration from American muscle cars, and hey presto, this season's model is on the catwalk. Inside, well, to be honest, it's a bit of a disappointment, really. It might be comfortable and it might have the levels of equipment that you expect of a car in this class, but stylish it certainly isn't. It's a kind of hodgepodge of angles and different shapes. There is far too much of John Major's favourite colour and a complete overload of plastic. And although there is enough room for me as the driver and for the front seat passenger, unless you're planning on carrying children in the back seats, you can forget it.
Before we unveil the top car in our chart, let's remind ourselves of the cars from 10 to number 2. At number 10, the late departed Vauxhall Tigra. At number 9, the Renault Megane Coupe. At number 8, Honda's Accord Coupe. At number 7, Citroen with its Xsara Coupe. The number 6 position sees the Hyundai Coupe. And at number 5, Peugeot is Pininfarina's triumph, that is the 406. At number 4, Mercedes with their CLK Coupe. And Ford has its Puma hanging on in there at number 3. The number 2 slot belongs to the Toyota Celica. So, the number 1 car. Well done if you guessed the Audi TT Coupe was going to secure the top slot in our chart. This triumph of design still thrills people around the world, and with good reason. This has to be one of the most interesting and good-looking cars on our roads today, with high technology wrapped around a sleek and understated package. The attention to detail is astonishing, and sometimes people own the car for weeks or even months before discovering yet another joy to behold. The Allen key effect seen around the fuel flap is repeated in many different areas of the car, for example, and the use of chrome inside is just enough to give a sense of occasion without being over the top.
My impressions of the TT to drive are, on the whole, very good, apart from this particular model just being a little underpowered. There's no kick in the back acceleration, it doesn't exactly roar away from the lights, but it feels a superbly poised car to drive when you push it hard and have a bit of fun. It does feel very safe and secure, of course thanks to Audi's four-wheel drive Quattro system. It corners and handles superbly. You'd be hard-pressed to get this car out of shape, but of course you can't defy the laws of physics. Push any car hard and be silly in it, and you'll probably end up in the bushes.
This really is a two-seater car, and even children will feel crammed in the back of the Audi TT, but that's not the point. This is a brilliantly built car with first-rate materials, and assembled with as much care as a Swiss watch. This has been Dave Lee Travis running down the top 10 coupes on sale in the year 2001. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please join us next week when we'll be taking a look at the top 10 luxury cars. Take care.